I want to get away from the branding of free thinking as my identity, or I want to get away from the branding of ex-Muslim as my identity. Because it seems that the movement that we started is now backfiring, because the main purpose of my rebellion against Islamic fanaticism was not by any means to get people out of Islam. Rather, it was my independent decision that I realized that Islam was not a true religion, and it was my independent decision that the fanaticism in Muslim world had taken root. So that was my independent decision. And in the process, I found out that with the rise of fanaticism, ex-Muslims or Muslims who were living Islam had come under serious persecution. And I had faced serious persecution. My family, my friends, my country had ostracized me. My ex-wife, she left me for leaving Islam, etc. But in that process, when I was, shouting at the top of my voice, I was criticizing Islam, I was criticizing fanaticism, because I was alone at that time. I'm talking about more than 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago. I couldn't find any ex-Muslim making videos. I was screaming my head off. There were social media activists, but when I was making videos, I was the only ex-Muslim. Then others came in, and we started contacting each other. We got in touch. We sat down in meetings, secret meetings. We were building social media groups, WhatsApp groups, etc. We were trying to build our own family, basically. But eventually, I found out that without us even realizing it, we were in fact building an ex-Muslim fraternity, ex-Muslim community, who were in fact hardly free thinkers. I can't really call them free thinkers. I mean, with due respect, with those great ones who were truly free thinkers, except them, most of them were not actually free thinkers. They were, in fact, hating Islam, and it had become their obsession. But as for someone who had preached Islam all his life, myself, I know that Islam is a great religion, Christianity is a great religion, Hinduism is a great religion, but obviously they have their black sheep as well. So there are interpretations which are disgusting, barbaric, narrow, politicized and everything, and there are interpretations which are liberal, and scholars over the centuries had developed ways how to address fanaticism, narrow interpretations, and etc. But political Islam was being sponsored for political purposes by many international communities, by many sometimes Western powers as well, for political reasons. Obviously, it started with the facing off with the Soviet Union, then eventually to take up the challenge against China, and also to bring the Taliban's under control, because the Talibans were like headless chickens. They had their roots with the Mujahideen you know the history, and there was 9/11 and taking up Islamic political aspects into challenge, and it was necessary to have a face-off with political Islam. So the Western policy was concentrated to fend off Islamic political challenges. So political Islam became a challenge. Terrorist attacks took place. Several ex-Muslims started speaking like me, because obviously we were traumatized with the rise of the political Islam. But what I noted, that in that process, I lost my own liberty to think freely, speak freely, because I was again trapped in a community where I couldn't speak freely. I couldn't appreciate things in Islam which are good. If I appreciated anything good in Islam, because as a free thinker, as an independent thinker, I should have the ability to appreciate what is good, even in something I don't like, an ideology I don't like, but probably there are aspects I like in it. So I was not free anymore. There were many ex-Muslims who were thinking of me, who were taking me as their role model of resilience. But they were telling me, Mufassil, you had said this, now why did you change mind? Why are you appreciating Islam? I said, what's that with you? If you think my previous explanation was good, you should be able to think for yourself. They were acting the same way like any regular or even fanatic Muslims who would not want to listen to the opposite opinion, who would not want to change his mind. So what was I doing all this time? If the ex-Muslims or atheists behave and think the same way, they insult me the same way, they harass me the same way, then absolutely there is no difference amongst all these people. They, by default, had built up their own community. So that was a mistake. So I have decided to move away from that branding, because I don't want to lose my independent mind, my independent thinking, my freedom of decision, opinion. I don't want to lose that for any community. I didn't lose that for the Muslim community. I don't want to lose that for the atheist or ex-Muslim community. So I believe that it is wrong to build up a community of ex-Muslims, but that has fruition. That was where it has come. So I also believe that fanaticism is political Islam is sponsored for international political purposes. And when you have poverty, deprivation, lack of education, fanatic and narrow interpretations seem to be appealing. And if we want to attack any religion, Islam or any religion, targeting the fanatics, the extremists, the narrow-mindedness to be the representative of the whole Islamic community, we are doing the same mistake. We are paving the way so that real, true free thinking cannot flourish. We are saying that fanatic Islam, narrow interpretations are, all these are Islam. So what are we doing? We are doing the same thing. We are creating hate in response of hate. This is wrong. We should not have any wholesome idea so that we can say this is Islam. Islam is shit, or Hinduism is shit, because all these great religions didn't become great just being shit, right? So even if an Islamic scholar tells me, that Islam gives equal rights to women, which I don't believe anyway, but if someone comes to me and says, Mufassil, Islam gives equal rights to women, I will say, okay, great. If you think so, preach that. I will support you. That should be my position, not the other way around. I don't have to say that, no, Islam doesn't give equal rights to women. Who told you that? Don't engage mental gymnastics. That's bullshit. Quran doesn't say that. What purpose will that serve? Nothing. So eventually, if religions start coming up with new schools of thought, new schools of jurisprudence, which are more liberal, I should encourage that. I should absolutely encourage that. And also, I have to remember that we can reform the thinking. We can reform any religion, any ideology. How can reform a religion which has been there for thousands of years? You can, as I said, start a new school of thought. But you cannot just ban books. Banning books won't serve as a purpose. You cannot kick out, people from their lands. So how can you reform it the way you want? You have to reform the thinking. So if someone is reformed in his thinking, he won't be fanatic anyway. So how do you do that? Educate them, encourage them to engage in things which unite people, music, cultural aspects of life should be encouraged. People should learn how to live together in foreign lands, or in how to live together with different communities within their countries. And they should eventually be obliged to learn how to respect opposite opinion. And there should be enforcement of law. The country, the government should take things seriously, that they should address hate issues seriously. If anyone trying to preach hatred, there should be clear, specific laws against discrimination, against hate speech. There should be clear laws and implementation of those laws. If someone gives death threats, if somebody carries out, if somebody delivers hate preachings with the help of liberal religious people, they should be handled firmly. That's how you can control and curb terrorism. Otherwise, if you are preaching freedom of speech, if you are preaching, discussing delicate, sensitive issues to a community, most of whom are very illiterate, most of whom are very poor, most of whom are very frustrated, depressed, this will backfire. That is what is happening on social media, because most of the Muslim countries are poor, illiterate, and they have severe social depression, frustration, political turmoil. We can't expect them to be, patient in engaging with us. Obviously, they will be reactive. And the Western countries should also bear some responsibility that, yes, these societies give us freedom of speech, because this society is ready for freedom of speech. But when you allow an ex-Muslim to burn the Quran, the main purpose for the burning is to send a message to the Muslim world, not to the Swedish people, but to the Muslim world. The Swedish court should have a responsibility not to allow that, because they should also remember this is the 21st century. And the lives of Swedish people abroad can be in danger. And relationship between Sweden and Muslim countries can be jeopardized. So the stakes, outweigh the benefits. Because we should give some time to the Muslim world to catch up.